Hello and welcome to the Knitting Traditions Podcast. My name is Inga and this is my little corner on the internet where I talk about my knitting mostly. I have recorded a video yesterday and there was some issues with the soundtrack, so hoping that re-recording today we do not have sound issues. If we do, I don't think I'm gonna record a third time. It's just so many hours out of my day and I don't have that many hours. So I'm hoping that this is okay. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, hello. I'm gonna knit and chat or maybe I'm not gonna knit because I have a lot of chatting to do. I have a lot of WIPs to show you. Some finished objects, and then if the sounds is okay, I might record a acquisitions video today because I was traveling to Paris and Budapest and Bergen on the west coast of Norway, and I have some stuff to show, but I want to make another video for that separately just because it's gonna be long if I combine them, maybe on their own as well. Yes, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's settle in. I'm wearing my Jules genser, which is from the Sandnes Garn Soft for Women magazine. I started this last spring-summer, I think around June, and I finished it sometime before Christmas. I'm wearing this today as my official Easter sweater because the one that I'm working on, which could have been the Easter sweater this year, is not finished. So it's a WIP that I'll show you. In Norway, Easter sweater is kind of a thing, same as Christmas sweater. They don't have to be yellow. Often they're like traditional colorwork sweater, but for me, the orange and yellow colors is very Easter spring-like, so I'm claiming this as an Easter sweater this year. I also made an Easter hat for this year just to have like a little project specifically made for Easter. And this sections us into finished objects. This was made on 3mm needles with Sandnes Garn tynn silk mohair. So that is a lace weight silk mohair held single. And they come in 25-gram balls, and I had to just break into the 6th ball. So I could have gone away with 5 if I made it a little bit more cropped, like a centimeter more cropped. There was literally just a last little bit of the cuff on the sleeve left to go. So if anyone's interested. Sorry, coffee. Need to finish swallowing it before I talk. You can't really talk with coffee in your mouth. I'm kidding. I don't even know what I'm saying. Let's see. Yes, so this is my take on the watch cap hat by Pearl Soho. It's a free hat. Basically, I use the decreases that is used in that pattern, and I apply it to whatever hat I want to make. I like to do 2x2 ribbing, mostly for hats. I find that it allows a lot of stretch, so it fits a lot of head sizes. I have a small head. I cast this on 5.5mm needles, holding, holding this yarn double. It's the Viking Garn Eco Highland wool, which is 110 meters to 50 grams. It's non-superwash wool, but I find it's quite non-itchy for 100% wool yarn. I held it double, and that created this hat, and initially I cast on way too many stitches, so I just ripped back. I don't swatch for hats. I just kind of knit a few centimeters and see how big it's looking. And I think I ended up with somewhere between 72 and 76 stitches for this. And note to future self, a stitch count divisible by 16 would be the best for the decreases on top. So I think I was like a few stitches off from that, so one of the corners has started the decreases at a later point in order to have a symmetrical decrease shape. So this hat, I used this yarn which I found half off at my local yarn store, and I had already been knitting with it because I finished the Checkmate sweater by Knitwits and Yarns that I knit for my brother. It was the first intarsia project that I have ever made, and I will put I'll put a little film roll on the side here somewhere of my brother wearing it because it's already been gifted to him. So this was my first intarsia project. It's knit flat, so there's a lot of purling. The intarsia was not hard at all. A beginner knitter could do intarsia, I think. You just wrap the yarn around the other and then you keep on knitting with the new yarn. And then both the yarns are always attached, so maybe a little bit more yarn balls to have control over. It was nice. He loved the sweater. My mother loved the sweater. It looked really good on him. The sleeves, I did a modification. So instead of knitting the sleeves flat bottom up, where you at the end bind off to kind of shape the shoulder, I picked up stitches and did German short rows instead at the same rate that he did the bind off. So I kind of read the sleeve pattern from the bottom up. So I reversed it and knitted top down. And then I knit the first color until it was just below the elbow, because that's what it looked like on the photo, that's where it hit. And made sure to decrease stitches so I got to the stitch count in the pattern that he had when he had gotten up to the second color. And then I just decreased the way that he had done, and then I had first my boyfriend and other brother try it on just to see where I was at, and then at the cabin my brother, who was receiving the sweater for his belated birthday, got to try it on, and I made sure to knit it to the length that he would like for the sleeves. The body in the pattern follows row count instead of centimeters. So I think the sweater was like 5 centimeters shorter on the body than I think my brother would have liked. But I think with washing, he could just stretch it to that shape easily. When he's wearing the sweater in the video, it hasn't been washed yet because we were at the cabin, and that's like 60 square meters for 5 people, and really no floor space in the bathroom to dry it off. So he will have to figure that out at home himself. I think he's a bit worried about washing it and shrinking it, but I told him to just soak it and gently lift it up, squeeze it out, and lay it flat to dry. It should be fine. If not, he could probably take it home to our mother, or when I see him again, I can help him wash it. The yarns that I used, I bought 4 balls of each yarn, and I chose the Eco Highland wool from Viking garn when I was in Tromsø, because the meterage was the same as the Brooklyn, is it Brooklyn? Is that what it's called? The recommended yarn in the pattern is not accessible to me here in Norway in local yarn store. I think there might be one store in Bergen that carries it, but it's a lot more expensive than this, and this worked beautifully. He really liked the feel of it. It's not itchy. The colors were really great. They are similar-ish to the ones used in the sample, which both he and I like. We have very similar coloring, me and my brother, when I don't bleach my hair. And yeah, they just worked out really well. And I got 4 for each color, and I knit him the medium size, which called for 3 balls of 3 of them and 4 balls of 1 of them. But as you can see, I only used 3 balls of all the colors, and I still have quite a bit left of the 3rd balls. I think the one that I used the most of might have been this one, or there might be somewhere around here one of these in that color as well. all to say, it used very little yarn. This yarn is quite affordable. I think it's like $4 or $5 for a ball. And for a medium-sized men's sweater, I think that's pretty decent. And the most important part is that he really liked the sweater, and I thought it looked really good. That shape is not very flattering on me. I find that it makes my shoulder look broader. But for a man's sweater and for him, I think it looked really great. The sweater is unisex, but it definitely has more of a masculine shape, I find. Personal preferences. But the colors were beautiful, and I'm thinking, so for the hat that I made, the yellow one, I used 2 strands, and I think I used 2 balls, because I think I bought 3 balls. I have 1 left, so I know with 2 balls of yarn, I can get a hat. And I was thinking a marled hat might be cool. Like, I've never been a huge marled fan, but it is growing on me. And I think that it could be really cool to combine maybe like this, or a darker and a lighter. We can play around. And I can make bigger ones as well with the ones that I have leftovers from. I could make bigger hats, and it could be gifts for Christmas or something. I'm trying to knit on gifts a little bit earlier this year, and oh, I really hope the sound is okay. I've started another gift. So I have everything a little bit all over the place here, but since we're talking about gifts, as soon as I finished that one, I started another gift knit, which is for my grandmother. The grandmother who taught me to knit. She wanted a blue sweater, and I had a look in my stash. I'm not a huge blue person, so I don't have a lot of blue in my stash, but I have this one. This, I think, is a Jamieson and Smith cone. They have cones, right? And it's the shade FC62. It's a 500 gram cone. When I looked at this online, to me it looked very much like a sagey green, but when it arrived, it's definitely more of a aqua blue with like green undertones, but definitely reads more blue to me. So I figured I could make a sweater for her in this, because 500 grams should be plenty. Now it is quite a rustic yarn, and I was a bit worried that it would be too itchy for her. So in my stash I also had this silk mohair from Isalloni, which I think is probably my favorite silk mohair. I find it very soft. And I'm not sure if I have 4 or 6 of this. I think I might have 4, so I'm hoping it's enough. I sent her pictures of several patterns that I had in my pattern stash, if you will. And she chose the only one with negative ease out of the whole bunch, meaning that it's going to be skin tight, and definitely if she finds it itchy, that is not going to make it any better. So I'm hoping that with the silk mohair, it's not going to be itchy. If not, she could wear a white turtleneck or something skin tight underneath. That could work. She is born in 1940, and the pattern that she chose is the Rowena jumper from Fabel knitwear. She is a Norwegian designer who has a lot of vintage inspired, romantic, delicate, detailed designs. So if you're into the whole vintage look from like the 1800s to like 1940-50, she's a good designer to check out. I've had this pattern in my stash for quite a while, but I haven't knit it up. One of the reasons I haven't knit it up is because it's knit bottom up. I prefer top down, but My grandmother's not here to try it on. She doesn't know that I've started knitting this yet. So bottom up is fine, and I can, she's pretty much my height, so I can estimate, and my size, I can pretty much estimate how it's gonna fit. The body is all over 1x1 ribbing as well, which is something that has put me off a little bit, but honestly it flew off the needles. The needle size that I'm using to get gauge is 4mm, which I think is what the pattern calls for as well. And I'm knitting the medium size, and I knit the body 7 or 8 centimeters longer than the pattern called for, because when it was finished it just looked very cropped. And even though my grandmother could probably pull off a very cropped sweater, she wears high-waisted jeans, I don't know, I thought it was just a bit too cropped for her comfort zone. I think it would be, I don't know. But I elongated it a bit, because as you also wear it and stretch it, it gets shorter. So I wanted to make sure that it was long enough that she would wear it. And I'm really hoping it will soften up. The swatch did soften up, but it's not like butter soft. So here's to hoping. And if she doesn't wear it, I could probably wear it. But maybe I'll gift it with a turtleneck. So it'll be a layering piece. So I finished the body, which has shaping, so you can see it kind of goes out underneath the armholes, which are here. And I have started the sleeve. I started the cuff with a small circular, but it was just too hard on my hands, because it was one of those small circulars where one tip is shorter than the other. I don't like those. The way I knit, I have a lot of movement with these fingers as well, so when the tip is very short I can't really use them for knitting, so it's just not fun for me. So I changed to magic loop, but now that I'm doing the stockinette part of the sleeve with 4mm needles, I am using small circulars, which are 30 centimeters, like 12-inch, where both the tips are the longer ones. They're still shorter than what I prefer, but it's okay. So I'm just knitting on the sleeve. This is the second silk mohair ball, so the body used one and some, and then I'll finish the sleeve with this one and probably start the other one. So I'm thinking I'll be okay with the four balls of silk mohair. So that is the Rowena jumper for my grandmother, and I hope she will like it. I'm also hoping that the unevenness that you often get with the 1x1 rib will even out when I'm washing and blocking it. I might gently stretch it back and forth a little bit when I'm soaking it to try and even out the stitches, because I find that whenever I knit a 1x1 rib, the knit stitches just look a lot more uneven, and I don't know, a lot of people have the same issue. It looks a lot better on the inside, but since there is shaping in stockinette on the sides, I can't really reverse it. Or I mean, I can, but then there's a purl on the underarm section where when the sleeves are stockinette, and it's just gonna look weird. And I'm also gonna have to do 1x1 ribbing up here, so I'm just gonna try and block it nicely. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't know, it could be more neat. I think a lot of knitters find that, but I'm not very judgy with my knitting. I do this because I love it and it's fun and it's homemade and it does not need to be perfect. But for my grandmother, who had taught me to knit, and I have this beautiful craft because of her, I really want it to be nice for her. So hoping it will soften up and even out with washing. So that was one gift. I have an almost finished WIP to show you. So this is one of the things that I took traveling with me. This is a sock tube, and this is leftovers from, let's see, from this pair of socks that I made, that I've shown previously. It was some stash yarn that I had, superwash. I think this brown one I have. The brown one is 100% superwash blue-faced Leicester. It's the Heritage BFL 4-ply toffee from the Wool Barn. And then I paired the brown one with tynn Kid Silk Erle in the color 4022. So I used that for the main part here. And then this is the Grenouille Owl together with a white, just plain white mohair from Drops, Kid Silk Mohair. So I took the leftovers that I had and I cast on the cuff with the brown. And then I decided to bring this as a travel knitting, so to have less yarn with me that I didn't need, I just left this at home and I knit until I ran out of one of the balls, which was the Kid Silk. Ran out for the Kid Silk from Drops ran out first. This Grenouille Owl, by the way, so soft. It doesn't seem to have a lot of spin to the fiber. It's a single ply. I think that is why. It's a very soft superwash. I think it's merino. I don't have the label, so I'm not 100% sure. So I do still have a bit left of this one. This is, I haven't weighed it, but to me it looks like maybe like 15 to 20 gram mini. So I think this should be plenty. If I fold it in half and cut it, it should be enough to put in a toe and a heel here, like this one. It'll probably have a shorter, like if I measure it, so if I cut it here for the heel, then it'll be slightly shorter. You can see how long it's going to be. It's going to be slightly shorter than the other pair, but that's fine. I don't need that long of a leg anyways. And I'm going to use these for the heel and toe. And I think it's going to be nice. I knitted on 3mm needles, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just a really, really nice yarn. It's if you haven't tried knitting socks with silk mohair as like a yarn to add, I find it a very good way of using up scraps or leftovers, and the socks are beautiful. They are very soft and snuggly on your feet, and I just love it. And I'm really into the whole contrasting heel cuffs and toes right now. I think it's beautiful. I have more WIPs to show you. We can start with this one. The bags are a gift from Unwind and Knit With Me. She is a podcaster as well from New Zealand, and she has her own store. And in this one I am keeping a WIP which is also gifted yarn, so I always want to be transparent when things are gifted. This is from Biches, La Petite Lamb's Wool, and the pattern is Talvinen from Caitlin Hunter, and I'm shamelessly copying Annie from the Pomegranate Girl. She made this sweater with these colors for her mother 2 years ago, I think. And I'm slowly knitting away on this. It's such a pleasure to knit with. I really like the fabric that this yarn is creating. It's a light fingering, and I'm using 3.25mm needles, so it's quite thin. The fabric I think is going to be great for summer as well as fall. Oh, pollen allergies are coming at me. Because it's just such a warm but thin fabric, it's going to be a great layering piece, and it's going to be a great piece in summer for those chillier moments. I've gotten to a point where I need to decide how long I want to make the body. I definitely want to make it shorter than the original, but I haven't decided just how short, and I haven't decided if I'm going to do all of the color work, which is on the bottom part of the body, or if I'm going to just do parts of the color work. I saw one version on Ravelry project pages that looked really nice, so I think I'm going to have to go back on and go through all the projects and see if I can find that one again and decide if I want to do that or not. So this has gotten to a point where I need to make decisions, and I often find, and maybe others as well find, that at the end of the day, you know, you only have so many decisions to make, and then you're kind of out of decision making. You don't have the mental capacity to make decisions. And I have that with my knitting sometimes. I need to invest more energy to make a decision. So often I put those projects aside and let them sit for a while until I'm ready to commit to a decision. What I could do is put the body on hold and just knit the sleeves, and that way when the sleeves are done, it's just the rest of the body left and I can commit to it and just do it. But I'm in no rush. I'm just loving this, and I love having it as a WIP as well. Also, if I do put the body on hold, yeah, I could do that. I might just do that. We'll see. The colors that I am using is the dark green gray, the beige, I think, yeah. And this one is soft orange brown. Yes. So these came in balls and this came in a hank. I don't know if the website will specify what you get it at. I personally do love a ball because you can just start knitting. You don't need to ball it up first or cake it up first, whatever it is you say. So yeah, this is a WIP. No rush to finish. I'm just enjoying it, but I might do the sleeves next, just so I don't have to make decisions. Yes, another almost finished object is this. These are 2 tubes, which has no cuff, no toe, and no heel. This is the fingering weight strand in this is actually from Fabel knitwear. This is her butterbear colorway, and no, the silk mohair is from Fabel knitwear, and it's the butterbear colorway. And the other fingering weight one is from Isalloni, which was gifted to me. And I had one skein of each, and I thought they looked really great together and they would make a great pair of socks. So I have just knit 2 tubes, and I am going to look in my stash and see if I want to do a contrast cuff, heel, and toe. If not, I have enough yarn left to do the cuff, heel, and toe in the same yarn as I did the tubes. So this I knit on before going to Paris, and I finished it before, so I just left it in my parents' house before flying, and just picked them back up again now. So not sure if I'm gonna finish them now or just leave them lying around until I need a pair of socks to gift, because I haven't put in a heel or toe yet. I could make a men's size with a shorter leg, or I could make a woman's size with a longer leg. Lots of possibilities there. Again, these were knit on 3mm needles, small circulars. I really enjoy that. And I've just kept the live stitches from the toes on one of these barber cords. These ones are from Petite knit, I think. So I didn't bind off the stitches, because I find if I bind off the stitches, then it's not going to have the same look and stretch as the live knitted stitches. So the toes I like to knit straight away. I don't want to bind off and then do them, if that makes sense. When you cut in and place a heel, those stitches are also going to be live, so it's just the cuff stitches that are cast on stitches. But I use the old Norwegian cast on, also known as the German twisted cast on, and that is a very stretchy one. So I'm gonna pick up stitches probably and do a cuff and do a stretchy bind off. I could also just leave it as it is with a rolled cuff. That is a possibility, but I do like the look of a ribbed cuff more probably. Then we can take this one out because this one is on top in my bag of WIPs. This was what I wanted to be my Easter sweater this year. This is the Olympic sweater from Garn. It's the 1994 Lillehammer Olympic sweater. It's the year that I was born, and I've always wanted to make this sweater. I'm running a year-long knit along, which is the Dream Knit Cal on Instagram. If you use the hashtag to participate, to make something that you've always wanted to make, whether it be for a year or longer, no time limit, but something that you've really wanted to make, but for some reason just haven't gotten around to do it. And this is it for me. I've always wanted this sweater, even before I was an active knitter, because I've knitted since I was 6, but really actively for the past 7 maybe years. But I really wanted this. It's a very traditional looking sweater in Norway. It's made in a very traditional way, knit bottom up, and then you have to steek and cut the armholes in the neck. The yarn that was used in the pattern is no longer in production. The pattern is free. There used to be an English pamphlet, but it's no longer in production. But on houseofyarn.no, all the patterns are still there for free as PDFs in Norwegian, but they're mostly charted, so if you feel brave, you could probably do it. Or check to see if your library or Etsy or eBay or something has the English pamphlet. The sleeves are done. I'm using Cascade 220, the non-superwash, because the specs were exactly the same as the original yarn. And I am using the colors of the version 2 in the pattern, which is the charcoal gray with white, and then yellow, red, and green, which is very much like the Norwegian Kvikk Lunsj chocolate, which is a chocolate that a lot of people in Norway take when going hiking and skiing and stuff like that. And this is going to be a very outdoorsy sweater for me, for hikes and for skiing. It's quite a dense fabric, and it's all over colorwork. So basically you have 2 layers of yarn. You have the knitted fabric, and then you have the floats on the inside, and it just makes it slightly windproof. And if it gets too warm, you just take it off and tie it around your waist or over your shoulders. So that is what it's going to be for me, like an outdoor piece. And I'm really happy with this yarn. It's a very round yarn. I have never used it before. I really like knitting with it. I think it's great for color work. It's going to be great for cabling. I've heard people say that it pills. Now, so far with knitting, it's not pilling, but maybe with wear. But I do think that this tight of a gauge and all over color work, where none of the floats are really that long, I think the combination of those two is going to hold the fibers a lot more than if it was just a stockinette sweater with one color. So it's going to help it pill less because the fibers are wrapped more tightly and covered by the other yarn strand, and it's going to hold the fibers better than if not, if that makes sense. The body and the sleeves can be adjusted in length by this stitch pattern that you see here, which is repeated. And then the sleeves have some other color work up here, and the body has 3 motifs in the front and in the back. And I was knitting on this yesterday. This is all I knit on, and I got from here to here. This part is very repetitive and easy, but these charts, which are this part of the chart, which is quite long, is not repetitive at all. So every row is different, and all the 3 motifs are different. So you really need to look at the chart the whole way for every round, for many rounds. So that is not very beginner friendly if you're doing color work for the first time. And it's kind of hard to put down because I know where I'm at in the chart, because it's a huge chart, and if I put down, I'm a bit worried that I'm gonna lose track of where I am, because I could print it out and use my magnetic chart or color it off or something, or put it in an app where you can tick off, but I'm not doing that. I'm just looking at it on my phone and looking where I'm at, and it's I could make my life easier, but I'm also too lazy to do that, so I'm just knitting on. So far, it's quite interesting to see, because when you look at the sweater from afar, it looks very intricate, but it's so intricate that it's kind of hard to point out what is what in the chart, because there's so much going on. But so far, knitting it up, I see a selbu rose here, which is very traditional Norwegian color work. Over here, I never realized, but this is looking like it's going to become a horse with some kind of man or creature sitting on it, and there's also going to be an animal of some sort over here. I will keep you updated as I'm knitting on it, what I'm realizing that I'm actually making. But very much enjoying this. The fabric is beautiful. I am looking forward to finally having this dream knit of mine finished. And the steeking is going to be interesting as always. It's going to be my 3rd steeking project, and I think I'm going to use my sewing machine for it. Ooh. Let's see what else we got in here. I have an almost finished object. These are the Talvinen tøfler number 3 by Sandnes garn. They are slippers, which are going to be felted, and they definitely look special. These are for my boyfriend. He got a pair like 1.5, 2 years ago, and he's worn them daily, and they now have holes in them. I could mend them, put a sole under them or something, leather sole or some rubber stuff, but he really likes them the way that they are, and it doesn't take a long time to knit this up. It's knit on 5.5mm needles. The yarn I used is rowena vildnis. I've also used sandnes garn, petite garn before. I hold the yarn single on 5.5mm needles, and it takes 4 balls for the second largest size that I made for him. The pattern says 5 balls, but I've used 4. The pattern, I did an English oral translation at the end of episode 21 or 22. I'll put it here. It's quite an easy knit, but they don't give you measurements in how long to knit, like for centimeters. It's all in rows, so if my row count is off, that might be why I use less yarn. But it's a felted project, so you want it to be bigger than intended. And then after you felt it in the machine, which you have to do in this shape, you put it into itself, and this is what you get. And I like to wash it in the machine, and then I take it out every 5 to 10 minutes at first, just to see how the machine is felting it, so it doesn't overfelt. It can overfelt slightly, that's what I want, but I don't want a kid's size slipper. It needs to fit him. So after I felted it, I will drag it onto his feet, and then I like to put tennis socks over them again, just to really have them mold to the shape of his feet, and then let it dry. And he'll have a new pair of slippers. So that was this. And I started a project for traveling. So I cast on the Cumulus Tee by Petite knit. I find this to be a great travel knit because it's fingering weight, it's 3mm needles, and at the beginning, because it's a V neck, it's a lot of purling, so it's definitely a slow going project. Now, I chose to knit it in black, which is not very travel friendly because this is best to knit on in daylight. But I wanted one in black, and the yarn that I'm using is the Viking garn Bambino, which is, I think, might be my favorite summer yarn. It's 50% cotton and 50% bamboo, and it's just very soft. It's 176 meters to 50 grams. I'm using 3mm needles, and I'm currently knitting back and forth. I had brought a fixed circular needle, and the wire started to come out of the needle on both sides. So as I was knitting on it, it was very scary. I was always worried that it's gonna fall completely out, which happened twice. So as soon as I got back, I changed to some interchangeable circular needles, so I didn't have to worry about the cord falling out when I pulled on my stitches to make room. So I've just finished the first ball of yarn, and I think I'm almost finished with the raglan increases for the medium size. I might do a few extra to have a deeper V. I don't know, I'll see. I have 6 balls of yarn, so I'm wanting to make this a long sleeved version. So I'll have like a thin, summery sweater with a v-neck. I think it's going to look really nice. We'll see. That is a WIP that hasn't had a lot of progress until this episode. The WIP that I spent the most time on when traveling is this. So in my stash, I have these 2 cakes of yarn, and I asked in the last episode at the cabin if anyone knew what it was, because it's stash that I don't have the ball bands for anymore. I bought this, what did I say? It must be 7 years ago, probably. Turns out this is Manos del Uruguay yarn, and the colorway escapes me. I need to do some more research, but it's Manos del Uruguay. It's a beautiful red with like rust, maroon, orange, and yellow tones to it. And I cast on 3.25mm needles, 350 stitches. Yes, I don't like to be nice to myself. And I'm just knitting garter back and forth. So I was thinking, should I do another half and half wrap? But I might just want to just do only this color. Do I want it to be a shawl? Do I want it to be a scarf? Do I want it to be a baby blanket? Who knows? So I cast on 350 stitches because according to my swatch, that would give me like 1.30 meters or something, which is what the width of my favorite half and half shawl is. And then I'm just gonna knit garter back and forth, do an icord edging on each side. So when I have 2 stitches left on my needle, I put the yarn towards me, slip those 2 stitches purlwise, turn my work, and knit until I have 2 stitches left. Again, yarn towards me, slip them purlwise, turn. That's all I'm doing. Just knitting, knitting, knitting. It's a lot of stitches. And so far, this is how much fabric I've gotten, and it's very stretchy. So I could always, when I watch it, block it out to make it longer. I have still quite a bit of yarn left of my first ball. So I have done this much this far, and this is what I have left of the first. So you can see I'm more than halfway done with the first ball, but it's still quite a bit left of it, and I need to make a decision because I don't think it's not scarf long enough. It's definitely not big enough to do a half and half wrap with two cakes, I think. It could be a baby blanket, So we'll see how tired I get of it by the time I finish the first ball, because then I need to make a decision. I could just do the other one and what I get is what I get. And then I have the same yarn in white. I have 2 hanks of white and 1 of yellow. So I could just do these 2 in red and then do 2 in white and then have a square maybe. Or after I finish this, I could do a white ball and then another red ball. I think that could be pretty as well. I don't know. Let me know what you think if you have a preference for my knitting. But yeah, I haven't decided. I am going to finish the first ball and then make a decision. I had interchangeable wooden needles on this and that was not happy. I did not enjoy knitting lace weight yarn. It's about 700 meters to 100 grams. Lace weight yarn on wooden needle which didn't have a very pointy tip. So I really had to make sure I catched the stitch to knit it. It just wasn't very fun. But I had the wooden interchangeables just because it's less likely that they will take you going through security at airports. I've never had my needles confiscated, but I have heard about people getting their needles confiscated, and I just really don't want to be on that flight without my knitting. So I take precautions. Wooden needles, interchangeable, I take them off and I put them with some pens in my purse, and have never had issues. As soon as I got home, I changed to my Haya Sharps 3.25, and it's gotten a lot more smoother to knit with. It's a lot easier to catch the stitches, but because the yarn is so thin, it's not as mindless of a knit as the half and half triangles that I've made with closer to fingering weight yarn. It's harder to feel the stitches. I can't look away for a long time. I do have to look and see that I've catched the stitch, if that makes sense. And this yarn has a tendency to unravel and make knots on itself like this. Oh. Okay, we're good. So after I got home, I have been putting the ball onto the needle, and I've been putting needle stoppers on it so it's not going to go anywhere. And that has improved the life of this. So that is a WIP. I have one last, I don't even know if I can call it a WIP. I have Cast On the Vildnis sweater by Fiber Tales. And I'm using the G-uld yarn that I bought when I was at their farm in January. I have 3 balls of their number 3 New Zealand lamb's wool. The Vildnis sweater calls for 4. So I'm going to be playing yarn chicken, and I'm hoping, oh, I dropped a stitch. I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Dropping a stitch at your cast on is not the best of things to happen. Let's see if I can do some magic here. Okay, I think we're good. Yes. So I've just cast on. I really want to knit on this right now, but I also feel like I want to finish either my grandmother's sweater or the colorwork one, because I also have other things that I want to cast on, and maybe some plans for some collaborations or something in the future, near future. So this one is cast on, it's ready to go, but I don't think I'm going to focus on this just yet. Ooh, that was all of my WIPs, I think. I have some lingering WIPs as well. I have my granny stripe crochet blanket, which has gotten 2 rows of a brown color that I also showed you previously, so I didn't bring that to show today, but I'll show you in the future if I get some more progress done. It's one of those long-term projects that I've had for 3 years. I'm using minis and leftover yarns and superwash yarn that I don't like knitting with it as much as my non-superwash yarns, so it's going into that and it's turning out beautifully. I don't know what it's gonna be yet, if it's gonna be a bed cover or a gift or baby blanket, who knows. It's a long-term project, so if I have more leftovers to put into it, it's gonna be bigger. We'll see. And I also have my square blanket upstairs that I'm knitting on. Haven't knit a square in a while. It kind of comes and goes, the motivation to work on it. And I think I have some more sock tubes somewhere upstairs. Yeah. Enough things to be knit, for sure. And I think that's all I have to say today. I hope this video will make it out there and I can record an acquisition videos. For those of you who enjoy seeing that, I got some beautiful yarns and I have a lot of things planned for a lot of them, I think. Maybe. Who knows? It's a knitter's choice. We can make whatever we want. It's the creative part of it is part of what I love. So join in if you have something that you really want to make in the Dream Knit Cal. We'll see if there will be some prizes for the end of the year. And I hope that you're well, and I hope that you're crafting on whatever it is that makes you happy. And I will see you soon. Bye.